All right, so we have an HTML. So how do we start a Vue.js application? So I'm going to go below here, the body, the close of the body tag. And of course, everything is JavaScript. So we need to do it inside of a script, right? Just like you would do with any other JavaScript code. So, okay, so to start a Vue instance, we need to say that I want to start a new and then Vue, open and close. Now, everything inside, all the properties we're going to be using inside of this new Vue instance, it's an object. We just pass an object. So open and close curly braces. Now, inside of here, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to tell Vue, this Vue instance, where it's going to be, working. So what we're going to do, and mostly if you come from React or maybe older versions of Angular, you can relate to this. We need to create inside of the body, inside of the HTML code, where everything is going to happen, In this case, and by convention, it's inside of a div with an ID of something. And again, by convention, the ID calls app, right? So now we have a div, and all the Vue logic is going to happen right here inside of this div. All right. So now we need to tell Vue that we want to use this ID as as an element. And this is, of course, the first property we're going to be learning. And it's the L property. This is a reserved property from Vue.js, and we cannot just pass element because, of course, it's not going to work. So we say L, since this is an object, L, the key, colon, and then the name of what are we going to be using. In this case, it's going to be app. So we can do just like CSS and say it's the ID called app. All right. So if I save this, and I'm going to go right here, I have the HTML. I'm going to reload the application. Of course, nothing happens. And if I go to the inspect and then to the console, nothing happens. If you don't know how to go to the console, right click, inspect, and then, console. Now, right here, we don't get anything wrong. Everything looks okay. Now, if I made a mistake right here and reload the application, of course, we get a warning. And this comes with the Vue.js development. So cannot find element, of course, because we have a wrong ID. All right. So this is the first thing. The first thing we need to do is to tell Vue where are we going to be working. All right. So we have a lot of properties, lots of properties. Some are more important than others, depending, of course, on what we want to do. So the next important property is going to be data. So data takes an object as a value. For example, L, this property, takes a string, which is the ID. So I'm going to do comma, and I'm going to go at the bottom and say data. Now data, again, takes an object. Now inside of this object, we can use it as a store. So data, it's like a store where we can put the data we want to use for our application. For example, just going to give you an example. Let's say I want to say hello guys whenever we enter to the application. But of course, I don't want to, go here and hard code everything, hello guys. I don't want to do that. What I want to do, I want to show it with Vue. So since this is an object, we need to store a key value pair because it's an object with the value I want to display. In this case, hello guys. So I'm going to go inside the curly braces and I'm going to say greeting. Again, this value, this key, this name could be whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Now, of course, since we want to show something, in this case, I want to say hello guys. Right. So now how can I, display the value of greeting inside of the data inside the app? All right. How can we do it? Okay. So I'm going to go here and create a P element, a paragraph, really simple. And the way we display things we have on the data and, all the things, but we're going to get there later. In this case of data, how can I display greeting? Well, first we make use of the double curly braces. We just enclose everything in double curly braces. This is called, of course, mustache vars. So right here, I want to say, okay, so whenever the application loads, I want to show hello guys. So what we need to do is to make a reference to the key, to the name of whatever we have inside data, and this will display whatever value we have inside here. Really, really simple. If I reload the application, we get hello guys, And I'm going really slow right now. Maybe a little bit of Vue. Sorry for that. but I need to go a little bit slow, at least when we are learning how to begin with this. Of course, then I'm gonna go much faster. So okay, so how does this works? All right, so for example, the page is gonna render with the paragraph inside and the curly braces. So in theory, we should be getting this. Let me just do something like that. So the application is gonna load, and we get the mustache bars. Of course, we should be getting something like this. Sorry for this. Gonna reload it, and of course, this is what happens, right? Because the application starts, reads this, and for the browser we have a div with something like this. This is a string. Of course, everything happens really fast. So Vue is gonna kick in. It's gonna say, oh, okay, so I need to replace whatever I have right here. All right. So with the value I have inside data. All right. And all of this happens in memory, behind the scenes. And then Vue is going to say, okay, so now I'm ready to change whatever it's on the DOM. So it's going to show you hello guys. So again, first starts like this. It kicks Vue.js kicks in, changes everything in memory, and then goes back to the browser and replaces whatever version we have right here with whatever logic we can use for Vue.js. All right. Of course, this could be whatever. In this case, it's just a string, but it could be whatever we want. So like I told before, we could use whatever we want right here. What happens if I want to use a Boolean? All right. So I'm going to put a comma, and below greeting, I'm going to say, is it true? And this one is going to be true. All right. Of course, I'm going to save it. And I'm going to go right here at the bottom and say P, and I'm going to just do the same thing I was doing for greeting. I'm going to just make a reference to it's true. And if I reload the application, we get the true. But of course, this is not the way we use Booleans in JavaScript. We just evaluate something. If it's true, we show something, or maybe, and if it's false, maybe we show something else. So right here inside of the the mustache bars, the double curly braces, you can make a logical operation. So I'm going to say, is it true? And this one should be good, I don't know, yes or no instead of true or false. So in this case, I'm going to make a ternary operation. Is it true? I'm going to open the question. And if it's true, I'm going to say yes. And of course, if it's false, we do the colon. It's no. And of course, this is not Vue.js, all right? This is just pure JavaScript. I'm gonna reload the application, and is it true? And of course, it's falling back to yes. So this is like an if statement. It calls ternary, all right? So of course, we can use Booleans. We can do arrays if we wish. So I'm gonna say array, open and close, and maybe Francis, just maybe 2 values, and then, I don't know, Jane, whatever. I'm going to go right here at the bottom, and I want to make a reference, maybe not to both. I want to maybe bring the second one, the second name. So open and close, and we make a reference to the array, which is in this case array. And of course, we can bring the position number 1 if we wish. And if we reload the application, we get Jane. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right. Okay. Of course, we can use objects. So comma. And I'm going to say maybe we want a car. All right. So inside let me do OVG first. I want an object. There we go. So inside of an object, I'm going to be, of course, using the curly braces. And I have a property with a car, and the call is a Ferrari, whatever. All right. So now I'm going to go here, open and close. And I need to make a reference first to the object. It's object notation. So object dot and then car, and of course that's gonna work. And if I reload it, we get Ferrari. Very cool, very good. So of course we can do functions. So I'm gonna call something called func, and notice I'm using the Chrome, right? And Chrome, the latest versions so far until today, it supports ES6, right? So I'm gonna just use ES6. I'm gonna try to avoid ES5 as much as I can. So I'm gonna open a function, is a fat arrow function from ES6, and I'm gonna say, okay, so whenever we call to this function inside of the app, I want to return a string. So in this case, we just say return and message from function. Not very creative right here. So now how can we, trigger this function? So, okay. So the only thing we need to do is to make a reference to this function. So I'm going to still do it on a p tag. We always need to use the mustache bars. And then I'm going to say, okay, I want func. All right. So this one, not going to work, right? We are just saying, okay, I want to print whatever I have inside func. And in this case, it's just a function. So you can use it this way if you wish. But of course, this is a function. So I'm going to say open and close and trigger that function, make it work. And we get the message from a function. So maybe you're wondering what it's going on with the data. This is an object, data, with an object notation, something inside. So why are we making a reference just to greeting instead of making data that greeting, just like a normal object? And okay, and if you're, wondering this, you're right. Why not using this one? But the difference is that this data property, it's a reserved property from Vue.js. And Vue, it's smart enough to know that when you make a reference to greeting, of course, you're talking about something stored in data or maybe on a different place of Vue instance. So whenever the application goes, some magic goes in the background, and Vue.js is going to say, oh, okay, so he or she is making a reference to greeting. So I'm going to look in data. Oh, I do have it. So, match, and I'm going to show it. Of course, if it's not finding anything, nothing is going to happen. But you need to know that, Vue.js, it's really, really smart. Okay, so let's go to the next one. I want to expand a little bit on the functions. Now, right here on the data property, we have the ability to, trigger functions, but we have a different way, a much, much better way.